On the 13th of January 2024, Impact Wrestling rebranded as TNA Wrestling for the first time in 7 years. This sense of nostalgia has caused two comedians to go back to where it all began, back to the Nashville Fairgrounds, back to the Asylum to see where it all kicked off. Join me now to spend the next 114 episodes escaping the Asylum.
Let's get this thing started.
Hey, it's LJ, and welcome to Escaping the Asylum, the podcast where two comedians go back in time to rewatch all the old NWA TNA pay-per-views. And while I'm one of those comedians, there is of course a second, all the way over from the Pro Wrestling Nation. It's the man himself, Funky Sam Medina.
Yo,
pal?
what up? Thanks for having me. Like, we're not going to be sitting here for 114 episodes together. Thanks for having me today, LJ.
That's not a problem. Before getting to the podcast, you got anything to promote?
No, not really. Every Monday we do a open mic at the Groundstack Coffee in Stockton, and Monday the 25th of March. I said that really weird. Monday, March 25th. We're gonna do the first ever hypothetical comedy showcase at Groundstack Coffee.
Well, if you're in the Stockton area, you know where to go. So yeah, this
Absolutely.
is week two of
week two. It's an exciting week.
Yeah, it's interesting. So it's a pre-tape, so they kind of knew where it was going, sort of coming in. But as we'll get to the news,
that makes more sense to me, because I was wondering how they were able to pigeon in, to shoehorn in the dark matches from the previous week into this week's show in front of a live audience. But I forgot that you said they're taping them two at a time, right?
So these two are taped together. Yeah, actually, I was looking at the schedule. I thought it was like episode 4. They actually made it to the Asylum. I think it's not till like episode 6, if my notes are to be believed. So yeah, despite being called Escaping the Asylum, we have yet to make it to the Asylum here on the main show.
We're trying to get to the Asylum, you guys.
Although last night we did do a Patreon exclusive, and guess what? We were in the Asylum. So if you sign up to the Patreon, you can check us out in the Asylum a few weeks early. That was
and the Asylum in the Patreon episode we did. It's kind of a watch along, and the Asylum looks so different.
Yeah, the seats were kind of a powder blue, and the sort of walls were quite kind of grayish white off. Kind of it. You said it. You didn't realize it was the Asylum until I pointed it out to you, did you?
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Because the Asylum is like dark, and this was like bright and well lit.
Yes. Actually, putting together the notes for the news. We're gonna briefly come back to that. Just realized I have sound effects for every segment except the news segment, which is what we're going to come to, because despite the fact it is a pre-tape show, there is still some news to be report on. The most notable thing that's happened is Vince Russo has been signed by WWE at this point in the timeline for all of 3 days.
I remember this.
Yeah, I worked with Vince Russo a couple of times over the span of a week, and this came up. And from what he said and what has been said online, there is definitely some crossover, which is something to the effect of he turned up at the meeting with all the writing staff, and they just decided for whatever reason that Vince wasn't what they were looking for. Vince states that the creative process had changed so much since he'd been there 3 years earlier that he couldn't see himself changing to adapt to it. Whereas the writing staff were like, he had so little clue as to what was going on in the current product. They wanted nothing to do with this man. And apparently Vince McMahon even apologized to the writing staff permanently after Vince Russo left. Now, I'm not saying one of those is true and one of those is false, but you sort of get the idea of where the issues that were being had and why his stint, it lasted less than a week. I think he turned up to work on the 20th, and in Jarrett's book, by the 24th, he's gone.
Wow. I remember hearing Vince Russo talk about this time and time again. I believe that he, if memory serves me correctly, he blames Stephanie as not wanting him there.
Yes, that's something that comes up. I believe he has said in interviews, he was amazed when he heard that she got made head of creative at the end of 2000 because he was like working around her. She was a, bright, intelligent girl, but just nothing creative about her.
Not
And
creative. Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, some of the stuff that came out at the end of 2000 there, that very much felt like a greatest hits of stuff in the way that certain songs work on albums, on the original albums better than outside of it, just because the album is designed around that song. And very much the same thing happened with Stephanie's writing at the end of 2000. It was very much a case of, why are they doing this? Although we did get the Armageddon six-man Hell in a Cell, which was a pretty cool match, I thought. So, ups and downs.
We did a watch along on that on the Hypothetical Wrestling podcast. Go check that out.
Yeah, what did you think of it? Was it well received? 'Cause that was quite chaotic.
I talked about the Armageddon Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was fun. It was very chaotic. I don't know. It was good. It was good. It was good at its time. Because I feel like the late 90s, early 2000s kind of was chaos was kind of the name of the game. And it worked. The Rikishi spot was pretty cool, even though you kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
The Rikishi spot was really cool in that match.
Yeah, although that's the second time he'd done a spot like that in about 6 months. I think the spots individually would have been more memorable had he not done the other
What
one.
was the first one?
It was him against, who was it? I think it was Val Venus in a cage, and he hit a splash off the top of a cage onto Val Venus.
Oh, I don't think I remember that one. That's crazy.
Yeah, that was I think it was a fully loaded pay-per-view.
Okay.
But yeah, he hit the
Big man
splash.
can fly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he was quite athletic when he was a head shrinker. Granted, he was half the
Yeah,
size,
he
but still.
was.
But yeah, he hit the splash on Val Venus and still lost the match because Taz slammed the cage door into his head because,
Oh, fun.
Taz
Good
got a
old
Taz.
Taz. Good old 2Z Taz.
Yeah. Yeah, that was around the time it looked like they were going to give him a second go and then didn't because Jerry King Lawler's got to get over someone. Also in the news is there is some issues between TNA and In Demand because they're getting good reports of pay-per-view sales from their agent, the Jay Houseman, who we will be coming to in the next couple of weeks, if not next week, but the week after. And it's looking, like in certain markets, they're doing quite a good share of pay-per-view buys compared to like recent WWE events, which granted are on the slide, but that's still putting them over the break-even point. But they're also getting complaints that certain cable companies throughout the country aren't carrying them on pay-per-view, and so this is causing issues between them and In Demand. I mean, well, there's not really much to touch on here. It's more in a few weeks when we go more into this. But
Yeah.
if you know where this is going, you'll know why all this is happening.
Yeah, absolutely.
And final thing is I think I mentioned it briefly on the Patreon episode, but Burt Prentice, his USA Championship Wrestling, they've come to an agreement with TNA where he's now their Nashville promoter. And what they're going to do is they're going to allow him to use their production teams to make his TV show. So his TV is essentially a syndicated TNA show before TNA have their own syndicated show, Explosion, which comes along a few weeks later.
That's crazy to me because I feel like TNA's production value is so much better.
Yeah. Yeah, so I mean, this actually brings up. I bring this up on the Patreon. It actually brings up some issues between Burt Prentice and some of the other NWA promoters because Prentice is essentially saying, "Oh, look, I've got all this stuff, and it's being taken as he's now the feeder system for TNA, which is rubbing up the wrong way a lot of the other NWA promoters, which I can see where they're coming from. But in the same vein, Prentice is
Yeah,
running
I can too.
in TNA's area. TNA they're working to a budget. So if Prentice has got guys who would look good on their shows, I can see why they're keeping him close. And hey,
Yeah.
we got AMW from Burt Prentice, so he's obviously uh, he's bared fruit already for him. Well, maybe not at this point, but the positive relationship in regards to the talent they're getting from him.
Yep. Most definitely.
So yeah, that is all big news going into the show. Before we get into the show itself, of course, this doesn't happen in a vacuum. So I like to try and set the stage for what else was going on in the world for this show. Starting off with the entertainment world. Right. So yeah, we're talking the 2002 box office. So starting with what's topping the box office in the US, we had for this weekend we had Minority Reports, the Tom Cruise film about a group of people who could see disasters coming and had a special police force set up to stop it. Why are you doing?
I'll pass.
Yeah, it's probably the best film Steven Spielberg did for 20 odd years.
I've never seen it. I don't think I've ever cared to see it. I'm not a big Tom Cruise guy.
No, that's fair enough. It's a fairly sort of standard sort of Tom Cruise action flick. If you don't like him, I can understand. Yeah, why wouldn't it appeal? Over here in the UK, it was still Spider-Man. So yeah, Batman Randy Savage still getting arguably a better payday than he would have got at the TNA pay-per-view. Make it out what you will.
Worldwide exposure instead of just Huntsville, Alabama.
Yeah, again, well, I mean, it was slightly more than that, but again, not enough pay-per-view companies were carrying it at the time. So yeah, he was definitely doing better with that one. And of course,
but I mean, how many people watch TNA compared to how many people watch Spider-Man, right?
Well, it appeared from the numbers I think we end up getting, it was at best 20,000 buyers. So yeah, I think more people saw Spider-Man in the opening weekend than that. quite comfortably, really.
I think more people saw Spider-Man in an opening weekend than TNA ever.
Quite sadly, that you're probably not far off with that, especially where TNA have been in the recent years. I still don't know what TNA airs on over here anymore.
Do they have access there?
No, not as far as
I
I'm
don't know
aware.
either. I don't know either.
So also in the entertainment world, we're going to be looking at topping the charts over in the US. Top of Billboard Top 200 was once again Foolish with Ashanti, which we discussed last week, and you were fairly nonplussed about it. And it's not a song I'm familiar with, so we'll move on from that quite quickly. And topping the album charts in the US on that particular weekend was once again the Eminem Show with Eminem. So if you want our thoughts on that again, you can go back to last week.
Ooh, good album.
Now moving on to here in the UK, we had brand new #1 with Elvis Presley against JXL with the remix of A Little Less Conversation. Did that actually...
Did Elvis? Oh, what was that?
Did that version cross over?
I couldn't tell you. But what I was gonna say is, you guys are barely getting Elvis Presley in the UK in 2002. He wasn't alive anymore.
We were aware of that. It was
okay. Just making sure. You're like, hey, there's this great new band called the Beatles. We just got them here.
Hey, that's
I guess they started there.
What it was an MC had decided to remix one of Elvis's old songs, A Little Less Conversation.
And that's crazy. I never heard of it.
A little less conversation, a little more action, a little more something and satisfaction in me. A little more something. It's it was a cool little remix, and what it was I don't remember what the advert was for, but it involved a lot of famous football players. It might have been a World Cup thing, but there was like this TV advert and it played it like all the time. And yeah, it topped the charts. I've actually got for the next 4 weeks. This is what's going to come up in this segment until they, for whatever reason, they decided there was. I think there was an issue with Elvis's estate where they just had to pull it from rotation, and so yeah, you couldn't. So it was literally in the charts for 4 weeks and never heard again just because of the dispute with Elvis's estate.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
cool. Good flash in the pan.
But yeah, if I remember right, I think that was the 30th number one he had over this side of the pond.
Wow.
And once again, topping the album charts was again the Eminem show over here. So certain things, came over here at the right time.
Yeah, not 25, 30 years later.
And going over to the wrestling world. It was so just before this TNA show, it was the weekend of the final King of the Ring. Which do you remember anything about this year, about the final King of the Ring?
Brock Lesnar was the winner of it.
Yeah,
I mean, there was a Brock Lesnar versus RVD match. I don't know if it was on the finals, but that was a good match.
Yeah, it's a weird event. In 2002, they had a lot of ups and downs at WWE, but I feel the big four they got right. King of the Ring on paper looks a lot better than it actually worked out to be. It's one of those. Yeah,
I don't know. I'm
I've
a
got the
big
results
fan.
here.
I'm a big fan of the King of the Ring concept. Vince McMahon didn't really like tournaments because you can't guarantee matches. You can't promote guaranteed matches. But like, I really enjoyed the King of the Ring concept myself. I'm big on tournaments.
Yeah, I mean, with a tournament, the promotion is well, we've got these 8 guys or these 4 guys or whatever, and
Yeah.
so you're promoting the final out of this group of guys.
Like
That's
there is a tournament that recently happened on the independent scene here in the US called the Jersey J Cup. And
yeah,
like the names in it were just incredible one after the other. Like Jordan Oliver, Masha Samovich, Nick Wayne, Great Sasuke, right? All these names. And it's
yeah.
like, sure, you can't promote who's going to be in the finals, but you can promote all the first round matches and they're all going to be really good. And I mean, if all the first round matches are really good, guess what? It gets better as we go.
It's such a shame because I think the King of the Ring, when done right, was done really well. I mean, you
I
watch
agree. Completely
that
agree.
first King of the Ring. Actually a really good show, despite the fact it happened in 1993. Yeah, an objectively terrible year for the Fed, but you
Yeah.
had like the Bret Hart story going through where he had like 3 completely different matches
The,
with 3 completely different
the only
opponents.
thing about the first King of the Ring that was kind of, I mean, it was 93, so I was like 12. I don't
Yeah,
know. But the only thing that really like that stuck out to me at the first King of the Ring that was kind of a negative was that there was only one former world champion in the entire thing, and then he won it.
yeah,
So
they
so
stopped
Brett
there.
was a level above everybody in that tournament.
But still, you kind of felt unsure as to whether he was going to win it the way they built it, but especially towards the end of like that Bam Bam match where Bam Bam had a bye, so Brett had 1 more match than him, and he was beat up and injured from particularly his match with Perfect, and fingers possibly broken by Razor Ramon. But yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, they did some terrible things with the King of the Ring. 1995 and 1999 both are awful shows, top to bottom.
Mabel winning, yeah. And who
Yeah,
won 99? Was it Billy? Was that Billy Gunn's year?
that was Billy Gunn's. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, they tried with Billy, but it didn't work.
it's a shame. Yeah, it's a shame, but I mean, the event itself, you actually sit down and watch, it's terrible. But
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's the match. That was the show that was headlined by Austin versus the McMahons in the ladder match with the screwy finish that was
Oh,
never
with
followed up
the
on.
briefcase kept rising or whatever.
Yeah, apparently it was supposed to be the Boss Man, but they just
They botched
didn't
it.
bother. They like kind of got edited out the show at a last minute rewrite, and so it's just one of those mysteries that Well, not to be fair, I don't think anyone's that bothered about it still, but it's just one of those things. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it was a big mystery, but then at the end of the day, nobody really cared.
Yeah. I mean, also, I mean, to be fair, not all the events are great. You sort of have like the 2000 event is not great, but Angle winning was worth it if you sat through it.
Yeah, that was a good one, man. The one that Angle won, especially because he I don't know, Angle was really good, and he almost won the next one too. Even
Yeah.
in '01, he almost did.
So yeah, I've got the results for this one here. In the first round, RVD beat Y2J. After the match, the King gets in
Quality
the ring to
match.
interview RVD, during which Jericho attacks RVD, puts him in the walls of Jericho, and then goes to his hotel room to bitch on the internet about people who complained that the show was terrible. This sounds like I'm making it up, but no, sadly, it's not. And if you've seen some of Jericho's recent ramblings on the internet, he hasn't changed much in 20 years. So yeah, this is watched by Lesnar on the monitor. RV said something about comparing Lesnar to Godzilla, and Lesnar's just laughs and is like, Godzilla's fake, I'm real. Which, yeah, no, Lesnar may be the most real thing they had at the time, and definitely the most real thing they got now. So he beats Test in a short match. Uh, there's an interview in the Raw locker rooms, just to get some of the guys' thoughts, and Barbara Ray speaks to coach. He says, it's great that it's an all Raw final, but he wishes he could be out there, and so he's looking for a way to make an impact on this show. In the SmackDown locker room, Storm and Christian are upset because it should have been an all Canadian final, and it's not because Americans are corrupt. Following on from that, we have Jamie Noble beating the Hurricane for the Cruiserweight title. Then we have an interview with Eddie Guerrero where he says, Ric Flair, he's past his prime. He's not got it anymore, and he's going to prove it. And he does this by failing to beat Ric Flair after Chris Benoit interferes, distracting the referee, meaning Bubba Ray Dudley can come around and slam him for Ric Flair to pick up the win.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. Then there's a segment of the World where Chris Nowinski and William Regal abuse the waitress because, of course, they do. Uh, Molly Holly beats Trish for the women's title with part of the stupid angle where apparently Molly has a fat ass because it's 2002 and they don't have a better excuse for putting two women together than simple body shaming. Then you have an Angle interview, and then Angle taps out Hulk Hogan in what was a pretty cool match, if I remember right. It's been a while since I've seen it. You actually said last week that Angle was the only person to ever tap out Hulk Hogan. I actually thought about this, and I can think of at least two other instances to prove you wrong.
Yeah, go ahead.
So
Wait, before you go into it, did Lex Luger tap him out in Nitro to win the WCW title?
that is one of them, yeah.
Okay, I thought of that one too. But go ahead with what else you have.
Hogan's final singles match is actually a TNA match, but I believe it's one of the Bound for Glories. He submits to the Scorpion Death Drop, Scorpion Death Lock.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, since then I've actually heard Kurt Angle say, "I'm the only person to make Hulk Hogan babyface Hulk Hogan tap out."
That may be true,
That
actually.
that may be true, but yeah, I still stand by it though. He's the only one who really mattered.
Yeah.
That's cool though.
So then you have a Gold Dust and Booker T segment when The Rock comes in, and they all do sort of their own variations on The Rock's catchphrase, and it's fun for what it was.
Yeah.
Then you have the King of the Ring finals where Brock Lesnar defeats RVD to become King of the Ring. I don't know about you. I feel tournament finals are supposed to be the main event of the show. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it depends on all the other matches. It depends on the marquee of the matches. Like if the finals for the King of the Ring is like Lesnar Angle, but then like the main event is like Hogan or Rock Austin, then you need to go with Rock Austin, you
Hmm.
know? So I don't know, it just depends.
Yeah.
What was the final in this one? RVD Brock.
Yeah.
And what was the main event?
Take a Triple H.
Yeah, I could see that.
Hmm. I mean, there is an argument there
2002,
for that. I will
RVD
accept
was
that.
still RVD's only been in this company for 3 months, 4 months. Brock
Yeah,
Lesnar's only been in this company since after WrestleMania.
yeah,
Triple H, Undertaker are like, you know, they've been around for a while.
yeah. It's. I mean, the match isn't. So yeah, the main event's not that good, to be honest.
I mean, yeah, I'm sure it's not, but like Vince liked it, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, a lot of the Undertaker Triple H matches from around this time aren't that good.
I
Um,
mean, they didn't really start having good matches until like those matches they had later on in life where Shawn Michaels was like the referee, those kind of matches.
I don't know, the Shotgun Saturday Night one where Undertaker tombstones Helmsley on the moving escalator, that was pretty fun.
Okay, I've never seen a Shotgun Saturday Night before. That's a cool spot, but I can't speak on the match.
I can't remember the match, but I remember that happened in it. And that was just, you just sort of had Undertaker tombstone Helmsley at the top of an escalator, and the escalator just takes him all the way down.
Yeah, no, that was a cool spot. All right.
But yeah, so Taker wins the match after some accidental interference from The Rock. And at the end of it all, they all sort of lay each other out with their finishes, seemingly setting up a triple threat for the next show that doesn't happen. Like I said, this event on paper it looks a lot stronger than it actually pulled off. I don't know what your thoughts were if you even remember it. It's, what with it being 20 odd years since.
Was this biker taker and the Rock attacked him or something?
So this would be.
I do remember this. I do vaguely remember this. I mean, it was okay. It was all right, but like in 2002, probably much like you and much like most of the audience, I was there for the King of the Ring. I was there for Brock and RVD,
Yeah,
and this was this kind of Undertaker and Triple H, another Undertaker Triple H main event.
yeah. I mean, we'd already had one of them just over a month earlier at I believe the Insurrection pay-per-view, which.
Oh well, I didn't have that. You did.
Yeah, we were blessed. I don't
Yeah,
know if
no,
that's the right word for it.
I didn't have access to any of the UK exclusive pay-per-views until I got the network. And then I did watch some of them, but then I'm also like, no, forget that. I couldn't watch it then. I'm not watching it now.
Oh, but you missed out on Rock Austin at Rebellion 2001.
I saw one of those Rebellion shows where Vince McMahon came out in the very beginning and he was like, oh, it's time for tea and crumpets, or he was saying some stupid stuff that were like, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. This is not even for
That
me.
if that's the promo, I think it is. That's a brilliant sort of heel promo.
Oh
What?
my gosh, it was so dumb. I mean, it was a top heel promo, but it was still so dumb.
Hmm. But yeah, so that was King of the Ring. Raw the next night is it starts off with an interesting Vince promo. You know how Vince sometimes just gets weird ideas in his head and just they play out on TV. This seems to be one of them.
Oh, a lot of those times, yeah.
Yeah, because this is when he cuts the ruthless aggression promo. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Now,
This promo inspired a generation.
yeah, I'm not saying that because 5 days after a new competition shows up, he's doing this to try and establish his dominance, but that does sound like the sort of thing he'd do.
Yeah, that does. I agree. Like, I'll show them. I'll show them. What are you gonna do, Vince? I'll show them ruthless aggression. And he goes
Yeah,
out there with the hair up his ass and just fucking goes off on it.
yeah. Um, so yeah, this is how they start off Raw with all the mid-carders sort of standing on the apron. Then Vince does his ruthless aggression thing. Then the NWO comes down, and Nash has a brilliant line here. He's like, you guys, if you have a problem with us, just come back after you've headlined a couple of WrestleManias like the rest of us. Which, I mean, is a brilliant line, I think. Um,
Yeah, it is.
and this leads to Booker T stepping up, and it sets up a tag match later in the night. Uh,
Somebody was trying to say, I don't remember who, but they're trying to say, like such and such was the best technical wrestler in the world, and Brian Danielson wasn't the best in the world or whatever. And I'm just like, how many WrestleManias has that person headlined? How many WrestleManias has that person been to?
yeah,
Exactly. Thank you. Because Brian Danielson's headlined WrestleManias, just like
which
Kevin
is right.
Nash.
Yeah, I mean, technically Nash was co-headlining WrestleMania 12 against The Undertaker.
Yeah,
That's the way it was promoted at the time, but
he was
that's
also he was also on his way out the door too.
yeah.
He had given
Although
his notice, I
I
believe.
think he wasn't out on his way out the door till after those plans had been put in place. But
Yeah, I mean, he had a pretty good spot at WrestleMania 12. He wasn't the main event, but he had a pretty good spot. Scott Hall was pulled completely from the pay per view because he was leaving.
there is a couple of different stories about that. There's one it's that he failed a drug test, which is believable, being
Yeah,
Scott
that's very
in the
believable.
90s. There is another that the only reason that drug test came up was because they were upset that he was going to WCW
Because
and
they were
he
trying to
got
find
Nash to come
something.
with
Yeah.
him. So yeah, because if I remember right, he doesn't actually appear much before his final appearance at the last pay-per-view, uh, which is headlined, I think, by Nash against Michaels.
Yeah, good friends, better enemies.
That's the one, yeah. And he because yeah, Hall takes on Vader there and kicks out the Vader bomb oddly. Um, but yeah, that's like that's like the only TV appearance he'd made in a couple of months because of that suspension.
Wow.
And then of course they have the infamous Madison Square Garden show. I think it's the weekend after, where they all hug in the middle of the ring, uh, which is a bigger deal now than it ever was at the time. And I think it made like the front page of the Observer or the Torch at the time. It was just a thing that happened. It wasn't until someone found the footage and put it up on an episode of Raw that it actually became a big thing.
Yeah, till the footage resurfaced online or whatever.
So yeah, first match of the show, Chris Nowinski and William Regal beat Bradshaw and Spike. Then you've got a Vince segment where he sets up Dreamer and Raven with the loser leaving Raw. Then he walks in on Jackie Gator in her underwear to build up to Diva's undressed thing that is spread out throughout these shows, but I've just omitted all other mentions of it because I've got one crappy woman segment coming up on the main show. I don't need to go into any others. And then Taker talks about how he's going to beat up Jeff Hardy. Uh, Next, we have a match between Eddie Guerrero and Bubba Ray after what happened at the King of the Ring, and Bubba Ray loses in about a minute and then power bombs Eddie Guerrero through a table before Benoit runs out and puts him in the crossface. The whole thing went less than 5 minutes and just seemed a bit odd. Although it's to build up for a tag match at the next show, but then you've got this really cool segment where Goldust does like his Steve Irwin Crocodile Hunter thing and goes into the NWO locker room. If you've seen it, it's just sort of the sort of stuff Goldust was doing at this time. That's pretty funny. Sort of, you compare it's like the Big Show to a hippo, and then his X-Pac walks in and it's like, oh, it's the lesser spotted grease rat. He has the habit of sucking, and it's just Xbox chases after him and then eats a trash can lid shot from Booker T, who's hiding around a corner. Then we have Dreamer beating Raven to exile Raven from Raw. Raven will only make one more appearance on Raw before turning up on a TNA event like 3 days later. Although apparently he was doing like some really awesome stuff on Heat, but who was watching Heat in 2002? As Raven goes to leave the building, Matt Hardy jumps in because he's been feuding with the Hardys at this point. Then you have the Brock Lesnar coronation segment, during which RVD sort of runs in, the two scrap, and an IC title match is set up for later that evening. Next, you have the Undertaker beating Jeff in about 3 minutes flat.
This wasn't the ladder match, right?
No, the ladder match. No, this sets up for the ladder match. I'm
Okay,
just
okay.
gonna note at this point, none of the matches on this show have gone longer than about 3 minutes. So apparently, ruthless aggression also means quick match times.
Yeah. I mean, this is, I mean, like starting from the time that Vince Russo left to go to WCW, match quality and importance just went down and down, and soap opera stuff went up and up, and that was kind of the downfall for most wrestling fans for WWE for those years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the year 2000 was some great stuff going on without Vince
Yeah,
writing.
because Vince Russo left in 2000 and he had him set up for months before he left.
Well, no, he didn't. He literally abandoned them, and I think it was September '99. And they because you actually watch like September through to like the end of October, they're going on autopilot and they're just trying to do course correction. But yeah, the
Yeah,
man
but I
helmet
mean,
stuff.
it's easy though, because like if you're at 10,000 feet and your engines go out, you could coast for a little while, but eventually you're gonna get hit the ground.
I suppose that's an argument you can make. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
So
not. I'm not saying that Vince Russo was the end all be all, or he was this or that or anything like that. But Vince Russo was the person that gave a crap about the opening people, about the mid card people. Like Vince Russo's because Vince Russo said that Vince McMahon would come in and say, "What's Rock doing? What's Austin doing?" and then leave the room. And he's the one who had stories for Val Venus, and he's the one who had stories for Molly Holly, and so that's why that was such a good era in wrestling, because Vince Russo made sure that even the people who were jerking the curtain had some sort of story going.
I mean, that's a great idea in theory, but I'm gonna offer a counter argument to say you can't focus too much on the underneath guys because if you put because it takes focus away from the main event guys. Plus, watched some of those 1998 Raws. Some of that mid card stuff was just horrible. He didn't
Yeah,
need.
no, it was, some of it was horrible. I do agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, yes and no, right?
Hmm. I mean, I can see why it appeals to some people, but no,
Yeah.
there are flaws to that whole philosophy that he's got. As we'll discuss, the more power he gets in TNA, which because he returns in the next couple of episodes, although he doesn't get full booking power till just after Dixie Carter takes over, if I remember right. But yeah, there will be a lot of discussion of that man's name once that sort of really starts kicking into gear, I feel. So next match on the show, Trish and Linda Miles beat Molly Holly and Jackie Gator in a match that happened. But then X-Pac and Big Show beat Goldust and Booker T. And then in the main event, Lesnar gets DQ'd in a IC title match against RVD and finishes the show as he power bombs him through the announce table.
Not a good couple
Really?
of days for RVD.
What was that, sir?
Not a good couple of days for RVD.
No. I'm gonna be honest. This episode of Raw, I don't think I've seen it, but I really, other than a couple of bits that were quite funny, like the Goldust segment, a lot of this just sounds like
Pretty
dross.
bad.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I know I watched it. I don't remember it too well, from watching it when it was airing, but it does not sound like a good show either.
yeah. And the ruthless aggression promo is interesting just for the context, given what's coming up over the next
Yeah.
few months. But other than that, so much of this is just blah. Speaking of blah, let's move on to the SmackDown event. Granted, SmackDown happens after TNA, but is recorded the day before, which is why I'm doing it this way around. It's my show, so that's how I roll. So we start the show. Vince is out first to introduce Kurt Angle. Kurt puts out an open challenge and is met by some young man who was working down in OVW as the prototype. Wonder what happened to that guy.
This was that soon after the ruthless aggression promo. It was the next show.
It was literally the next day, yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering how soon it happened. Wow.
So yeah, this kid John Cena comes out and Angle's like, "Why do you think you can challenge me?" And Cena's like, "Because I got ruthless aggression."
And then he
Uh,
punched him.
yeah. So yeah, they do actually. It's been a while since I've seen the match, but if I remember right, it was a pretty sort of decent match. Cena looked fairly good in there. And then, what, backstage afterwards, Undertaker he shakes his hand and shows him good respect. So, given how quickly his push dries up from this point, they certainly had high hopes for him to begin with.
Whoa, 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 whoa. His push did not dry up. He went to the pay-per-view and pinned Chris Jericho.
And then 2 months later was teaming with Billy Kidman, and then
Yeah,
feuding.
well,
It 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 does it.
they really gave him a rub quickly though off the bat.
They they did give him like a massive start, and then yeah, by the end of the summer, they seemingly starting to get a bit bored with him. Um,
Yeah, they do that though. Like when they brought in Chris Jericho, they brought him in against The Rock directly, and then from there he wanted to feud with Ken Shamrock basically on his way out the door and Road Dogg. So like I feel like that's kind of the MO. Bring them in, show them that they're a big deal, and then have them work their way up.
yeah, I mean, I think did you ever hear the rumor that Chris Jericho was supposed to be in the WrestleMania four-way?
Yes, I did hear that rumor. Yes.
Because there is,
I think I heard it from Chris Jericho. I think.
yeah, because there is like promotional
I don't even think it's a
stuff
rumor. I
out there.
think it's a fact
Mm,
that originally he was supposed to be in it, and they felt like he didn't have the star power, and so they wanted to
yeah,
bring in Mick Foley to put him into place.
yeah. I mean, Foley didn't want to be there if I remember right. It's been not a match I revisit much because it was just long and dull from what I remember. But
On Foley's podcast, he talks pretty good about it. He feels like it was a good way to kind of come back because he said that even when people retire, everybody deserves one comeback match.
yeah,
And he felt like he wasn't really in shape for it that well as much as he wanted to be. But like he felt like it was a good swan song for him that he got to be in the main event of WrestleMania.
I mean, yeah, from that point of view. But on the other hand, uh,
But you know, Foley looks at everything, you know, on the bright side. I'm sure.
well, if in so it's in his second book about this, and he was not particularly favourable about the match in his second book. So that's more
Yeah.
what I'm going from.
There you
But
go.
obviously,
Okay.
at times, sort of softened his view on it. Apparently, if that's what he's saying on the podcast.
So what do you say about it in his book?
Basically, he kind of didn't really want to do it. He thought the Hell in a Cell was a really great send off for him, especially following on from the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and it was pretty quick too.
And yeah, the fact that the fact it was so quick, he was just like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going to prostitute my career by coming back in 3 months." He's like, "No, I did it in 6 weeks instead." And it's like, and the fact that there's a point where he takes a bump off the apron, smacks his sternum on the announce table. His one thought is, "Oh man, if this is really bad, I'm not going to make it to Disney World." It's a case of really that's your where your head was at the time, which is not the headspace of someone who wants to be in that match. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Um,
He said that he didn't even go to the after party for this WrestleMania either. He just went back to his hotel
yeah,
because he was so tired and beat up.
yeah. I mean, I think we can both agree that his best WrestleMania showing was the one against Edge.
Oh yeah. I mean that was like in '06.
Yeah, but I mean, that's kind of an interesting story in itself because Edge was pissed that he wasn't in the main event that year because he thought he'd really earned it, especially the matches he'd had against Cena earlier in the year. And so the best person to pair him with was Foley because he was like, "Well, look, I wanted to be in the main event, so I want to show them why they should have had me in the main event. You've never had that WrestleMania moment. You should show them. You should give them the WrestleMania moment. We can do this together." And they made magic and. The finish was stolen from something Foley saw on a UK show while he was over here. Um, although there wasn't a burning table when uh, Jack Xavier speared Alex Shane through the apron like that. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's an FWA show that he actually took that finish from.
that's cool.
So moving on, Billy and Chuck defend their tag titles against Holly and Val Venus in a show of just how deep the tag title scene isn't by the fact that these guys could make a decent team, but they were just thrown together here for Billy and Chuck to beat someone.
Yeah, I hate people who are just thrown together as tag teams. I hate when that happens.
But I don't know. I mean, Holly and Val Venus, I could see there is a sort of a style mix there where you know maybe if Val changes his gimmick up a little bit, that they could work together. But
Wait till uh we get to beer money. I'll definitely have a good big rant about beer money.
Yeah, that's actually going to. I'm actually there's something I'm probably going to bring up when we actually get to the tag match on the main show that is that can be applied to beer money as well. So yeah, I'll put in a pin in that for the minute. So
As much
Noble.
as I love AMW, I'm not a fan of Beer Money. Sorry.
So yeah, Noble is teaming up with Tajiri later in the night, and he says, you know, if Tajiri gets the win, he can maybe spend the night with Nidia because trailer trash 2002 WWE. So Triple H was actually injured in the King of the Ring match. He's hurt his elbow and he's having surgery. He's going to be out for 2 or 3 weeks. Um, to be honest, I don't know if that information was needed. I don't think it would have noticed if he was away for 2 weeks.
Yeah.
So Lance Storm beats Mark Henry. Then we have Undertaker comes out, cuts a promo on The Rock and Triple H. Then Angle comes out and sort of challenges him to a title match in a couple of weeks. Then says, "Can I touch the belt?" And the Undertaker, for some reason, says yes, which just leads him to being in the ankle lock. Um, which, I mean, they're slowly turning him face, but they're not making him look smart about it. By that,
Yeah, that's a good point.
uh, Triple H, not Triple H, Test, big blonde guy. We can see the confusion. Test is in a match against Rikishi, but gets disqualified after Rikishi pushes him into the ref. And then Storm and Christian run in and they all beat down on Rikishi. And Hogan is doing a segment in Vince's office. Then Test cuts a promo, you know, saying how America's biased. And given the fact that he got disqualified for being pushed into the ref, he's got a point there. Kidman and Hurricane beat Noble and Tajiri in a match. There's this Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler thing about something to do with Divas Undressed. It's been going on all night, but I've really omitted because we have one bad woman segment coming up. I don't need to go into detail in others. Also, Dawn Marie features. If you care that I've missed this off, please don't email. So Devon and Batista defeat Randy Orton and Farouk. And if you want to say damn, you can say it about the spine buster that Orton took from Batista because it's cut to ribbons in the final edit, which means something if might not have been bad, but it was a bit tight, whatever happened.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, Jericho faces Hogan and you know, standard sort of Hogan match. Jericho was quite good. Hogan does the Hulk up, to which Jericho just gets a chair and smacks him one, which I can't say I blame him. I'm pretty tired of seeing that too. And then to finish the show, Edge does a run in to save Hogan, which I think sets up their tag title match next week, actually. If I've got the timeline right. So, given the last couple of weeks of SmackDown results I've read out, that is actually not the worst one. That's probably one of the better. That's probably the best of the three. Does any of this sort of jump out at you?
Not really. I mean, that was, probably the best show out of the three that you mentioned. Yeah, it was not a good time for WWE,
Yeah,
and this is probably why we needed the alternative.
yeah. Final thing before going on to the alternative, I guess, would be the roll call of champions. So starting with WWE, as that's what we were just talking about. To be honest, none of these titles have changed hands. So again, I'm going to do the World Heavyweight titles and the tag titles. So in the WWE, it is still The Undertaker and the tag titles are Billy and Chuck. Here in the UK, we had the Hammerlock champion of Johnny Moss, the current performance center trainer. In the FWA, the FWA champion was Flash Phil Barker. The FWA tag champions were the UK Pitbulls. In All Star, Doug Williams is still the champion over there. Moving over to Japan, Genichiro Tenryu is The All Japan Triple Crown Champion and the All Japan Tag Champions are Keiji Muto and Taiokeya. In New Japan, Fuji Nagata holds the New Japan World Title, and New Japan World Tag Champions are Choten, which is Hiroshi Tenzan and Masahiro Chono. Over in Mexico, the Mexican National Championship, which is what AAA are currently using as their world title, is Hector Garza. And the AAA Tag Champions are Chessman and Electroshock. And in CMLL, I've spelled that wrong in my notes. I don't know how I've done that. The world champion is Universo 2000, and the tag team champions are Los Guerreros de Infernos, Rey Bucanaro, and Ultimo Guerrero. I'd ask on your thoughts of this, but this list hasn't changed in 2 weeks, so it's probably just going to be the same things I said we said the last two times.
Basically, yeah, that's what I was thinking too. It's the same list.
Oh, I didn't put the AWA ones on there, but I think that I feel that joke's run out of steam anyway. But yeah, the AWA I believe is still the guy from Three Count, who's Evan Courageous. So with all that out of the way, it is on to the main show. I did throw out on all the forums, if anyone wanted to leave any comments or anything, but the only feedback I've had, other than we need to tighten up on our audio quality, is a load of people offering me loans in the email. I'm not in need of a financial loan, but one thing you can do, friends, countrymen, wrestling fans, is to lend me your ears as I ask for you not for a loan, but for actual money that I don't have to pay back. And I'm just going to plug the Patreon. We discussed it earlier. We do have a Patreon here at Escaping the Asylum. After every show, we do a post show where we look back at how the pay-per-view holds up in a historical sense, and we sort of look back at it with 2024 eyes. So that's 15 to 20 minutes we do after each show that goes up at the same time as this show drops on our Patreon. That's for the lower tier members. For the higher tier members, we release it all as one block, and we release it 2 days early. And then you want to step above that, we do extra reviews. We cover all the TNA matches that happen on shows that aren't TNA shows. We discussed earlier, we have included a USA Championship Wrestling match from the 1st of June, which was AMW facing off against each other. Chris Harris defending his North American Championship against James Storm. It technically not a TNA match, although it does turn up on a TNA DVD. And you'd never heard of this match before, had you?
No, I haven't. I haven't heard of the show before.
Yeah, but so we watched it last night, and you sort of said, it's a really great match. You can see why these two guys were picked up just off the back of it, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we did a watch along with that. That is up on our higher tiers. So yeah, check us out. That's patreon.com/ETA TNA pod. I believe that's all the admin out the way. So the next thing to do is to go on to the show itself. So going into this show, we sort of went over like the card on one of the Patreon shows. What did you think of the card, sort of just looking at it? Did you sort of have high hopes for this show?
Yeah, I did. I thought going into it, I was really looking forward to the X Division double elimination round robin tournament, which was just a one long match. But yeah, I was looking forward to that the most. And yeah, it was a good card going into it. Oh, the lingerie battle royal. Look forward to that, right?
Oh man, we'll get to
We'll
that.
talk about that. I have a lot of opinions about that.
Well, that's good because I have one and it's really not that positive. But again, we'll get to that shortly. So
Oh, I didn't say they were positive.
I don't think I've ever actually seen the show all the way through. It is actually on the TNA the TNA YouTube. I looked it up the other day. That TNA actually have the first 5 pay-per-views, so we're only going to be clawing around sort of like the bowels of the internet. Look, once we've hit show 5.
We'll figure it out.
So I watched the one on the TNA YouTube. Did you
Yes.
when you watched, or did you watch the one I sent you?
And I watch on the YouTube as well.
Yeah.
It's
Because
easier. It's easier for me to do that way.
yeah, because with the first one we watched, it had it as the TV edit, so you sort of had it cutting for commercial breaks, which was just off-putting. I mean, fortunately, this version didn't have that, but for some reason, it had the video at the start play again at the end. I don't know if that was a mistake while they were uploading or what. But moving on to the show. So we start with a recap of all things Jarrett and the Battle Royal related, although Shamrock and Hall saying the Battle Royal idea sucks is somehow omitted from it, which is probably the best decision they could make.
Yeah, I agree.
The show itself starts off at the desk, and Ed is wearing another horrible looking shirt. They do run the current announced card. And we're kicking off with Hall and Jarrett. JB announces the match is scheduled for one fall. Jarrett then states he wants the match to start right now. Fortunately, Hall is dressed and ready to go as he walks down to the ring with Jackie Fargo and Toby Keith. Yeah, this is odd. So Jarrett comes out and says he wants the main event to start now, but he does that after JB does and the following match is scheduled for one fall. It seems a bit of a lack of communication there on someone's part. What do you think?
I don't know. It was fun. It was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, so we start off with Hall flicking his toothpick at Jarrett, and that starts a "You suck" chant directed at Jarrett himself. Jarrett gets an arm drag to the enjoyment of no one in the crowd. He then gets a headlock takedown where he paintbrushes the bad guy. Jarrett then gets another headlock, but Hall pushes off and smacks him on. He smacks him again as Jarrett tries to reverse the corner whip. He then ducks a third one, gets a full-way slam, gets sent to the outside. Back in, Jarrett gets some strikes before hitting a pair of drop kicks and hanging Hall up on the ropes. Hall fights back out of the corner, but Jarrett locks on a sleeper after pulling out Ferrara for making stupid calls last week. I should call Don West out right here because he says Jarrett should try and wrestle him when he has the guy in a sleeper hold. Worryingly, Ferrara actually offers up some insightful commentary to that. I'm going to point this out here. Jarrett wasn't happy with the commentary from the first show, so but
Oh,
before
okay.
it says they actually do call back the announcers to the studio and they sit them down and he actually produces them like Vince would with his announcers, albeit possibly with less screaming and shouting. But yeah, I honestly think the announcing on this show is a lot better from the first one because of that. I don't know about you.
Yeah, I would say so. I didn't know that Jerry Jarrett called a meeting on it, but I would say so. Yeah.
So yeah, Hall gets out the sleeper and locks on his own sleeper, but is met by a back suplex. After kicking out to two, Hall goes on the offensive with strikes aplenty, getting a near fall off a short clothesline. Hall has Jarrett up for the edge, but K Crush runs down and pulls him out before smacking Hall for good measure. Jarrett squares up to him before Brian Lawler chases him off. Jarrett smashes Hall's face into the mat, but gets distracted by Toby Keith as Jarrett sets up for the stroke. Keith comes in, hits a low blow. Hall and Keith hit a double team version of the stroke to pick up the victory. Yeah, so I think I'm going to probably go into this more in the K Crush match, but essentially you have a face with two people at ringside, a heel with no one at ringside, a
Yeah,
big
that was
spot,
strange.
and it just seems a bit unfair to Jarrett. I don't know about you.
Yeah. So this match, I found it strange that they started the show off with it. I
Yeah.
thought this was going to main event going into it the way they built it up from the previous week, and so they just came out right out and just started the match like hot right off the bat, which I thought, okay, that's weird. Let's go. Let's do this then. And then it was weird also to see Scott Hall as a heel. I mean, to see Scott Hall as a babyface. I don't think I mean, I guess maybe he had a little bit of baby face stuff in WCW, um, but for the most part, like Scott Hall's a bad guy. He's the bad guy, and so it's just really weird to see him as his baby face. And he's bigger. He's bigger than Jeff, And so
Mm.
that's another thing is like the baby face should be smaller because he's fighting from underneath. I don't know. It just Brian Christopher also comes across weird to me as a baby face. So I just feel like, like I said last week, there wasn't a lot of people that they could sign. The pickings were pretty slim, so they had to make do with what they had. But seeing Scott Hall and Brian Christopher as a babyface was kind of weird. And then, like you mentioned, the whole Toby Keith was getting in the ring. Toby Keith was in the ring while the referee made the 3 count, and the referee didn't say anything to him.
Yeah, that was odd. I
That
mean,
was odd.
Paul was Razor Ramon was mostly a babyface, other than that first
That's
year.
Yeah, but that's Razor Ramon.
That's true. Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. It was weird for me to see Scott Hall as a babyface. I just didn't like it.
I mean, well, this was promoted as the main event, so I can see why they moved it here because they
With the
were trying to
finish,
push
yeah, I can
like
see why they moved it too.
because they were trying to push like the X Division title, and I think that was a good call. I mean, the match itself is fairly strong match between these two guys. I'm trying to think. Might be the first time they had a decisive victory on pay-per-view between these two, if I remember right. I'd
I
have
wouldn't call this. I wouldn't call this a decisive victory.
hmm, but they had because there are only other pay-per-view matches, if I remember right, at the Royal Rumble. Well, no, that did have a finish. I'm
Yeah,
just thinking they had a WrestleMania match which could have been fairly good, but was screwed up by a non-finish. And just the fact it happened in WrestleMania 11, which seemingly screwed everything up. Uh, but yeah, I was got something else I was gonna say, but it's gone. Um, so yeah, they cut to the dancers, and then we throw back to the girls segment from last week because we need to watch that again.
yeah. There's a lot of replays, which is a little bit annoying, but at the same time, like they're trying to catch people on pay per view and keep people, get people interested. So if you're tuning in for the first time, I guess it's kind of good that they're catching us up.
Yeah.
There's
So
no
coming back,
internet back in those days.
hmm. So coming back from the replay, we have Cheeks accompanied by the Brown Eyed Girl. Oh, that is a not the best ring name. I'm sorry. It just given it just it sounds. I mean, it fits the TNA thing, I guess, but no. Frank
But
Park.
but wait, he's Cheeks and she's the
Yeah,
brown eye, and
yeah,
together they are a complete butt. Get it?
yeah, yeah. No, that's. It's not that I didn't get it. It's that I didn't appreciate the joke. Uh, Frank Parker gets the jobber entrance. Tenay states this was originally intended to be the opening match. I'll refrain from commenting straight away.
So I have a question on this.
Yeah.
Did they do commentary in post? Because it was interesting that they were able to talk about something that happened on week 2 while they were pre-taping week 1.
Yeah, it's like I
Does that make
said.
sense?
Yeah, it's like I said that Jarrett wasn't happy with Jarrett wasn't happy with the commentary. He just had him sit down and he just went through it all with them and just re-recorded it. So
Oh wow! So okay, so they did commentary and post for pretty much for the entire show because Jerry Jarrett wasn't happy.
yeah,
Wow.
but as we both just said it, I think it sounds better for it.
Yeah, I think it does too.
So Parker hits a series of clotheslines to nothing. Cheeks hits one that sends Parker flying. Parker tries to reverse one of the laziest looking Irish whips, but can't throw the guy. Instead, he gets slammed for his trouble. He feeds up to the corner to set up a running butt bump. A second has cheeked gas enough that Parker can fire up a comeback without actually hitting the move first. As this goes on, Alicia is at ringside demanding money off JB. In the ring, Parker goes for sunset flips, but Cheeks drops down him slowly. He then hits a splash for the victory. This match apparently broke the ring, and unless they've edited out what it did, I can't see how. Cheeks didn't have anything behind those splashes unless he sweated so much it caused a board to snap, which I have seen happen. Um,
Wow.
I don't know. Do you have anything to say on this match?
No, not really. They
Uh,
broke the ring. Those bastards.
Yeah, so this is one of the dark matches that they had before the first pay-per-view. It's sort of, that they've kind of edited in here, and it's just basically Jerry. I'll say this now because I could bring it up next week, but you watched this match and was just like, this kid is an unathletic. This kid isn't coming across as a wrestler or as a killer. He's just an unathletic slob. Let's just cut him loose.
I mean,
Yeah,
this match was just a waste. Both these guys,
yeah. But
but
yeah, Cheeks didn't
whatever.
look like anything here. I mean, you can have fat guys in wrestling. You look at like Rikishi and Yokozuna. I mean, okay, they've got the Samoan heritage, which they seems to be something especially in that family tree that you most of them really get it in the ring. But they looked like someone who could handle themselves, whereas Cheeks here just looks like a fat guy. And Frank Parker, I'm going to give him credit. He really tried, but yeah, it just wasn't working for him. Uh, Also, the Alicia thing with the former Ryan Shamrock, I don't remember it
Oh,
going
did
anywhere.
she like gave the referee money or something?
But she's demanding money off people.
Wow.
So yeah. Uh, so yeah, JB gives her money and the cage girls are dancing. For some reason, I noticed I think I skipped over a couple of the cage girl dancing segments, but some of them I just repeated. I didn't clock it at first, but then there's one shot they use where a guy with a yellow t-shirt walks across, and they use that 3 or 4 times. It's the only reason I noticed they just reused the same shots over and over again.
Wow.
So yeah, while the girls are dancing in the cages, it's announced that Hall and Christopher take on Jarrett Crush next week, as well as promoting the upcoming tag tournament. So then we get
Hey,
a
you know what
recap.
they should have? Sorry, you know what they should have done with the Cage Girls was, especially if it's a pre-tape like this, just record them dancing for like 4 minutes straight or 3 minutes straight, and then just chop it up and then spread it out throughout the show, and that they're done.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think anyone would have noticed that. Yeah,
Yeah, just have them just film them dancing for 2 minutes, right? 2 minutes, because you'll need it for what, 30 seconds at a time, really.
yeah.
So just record them dancing for 2 minutes and then just chop it up, and you have four little scenes there. I don't know, whatever.
Well, believe me, they go for longer than this, as you will see, because
Yeah, no, you're
I've
right.
noticed a
You're
lot
right.
of them, and there's at least half a dozen, so it would have to have been quite a
Six
while.
minutes or something, but yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah. Uh,
Anyways, go on.
so yeah, as a recap of K Crush with the race car guys, it kind of tickled me at the time, but I'm gonna say it here. K Crush, he sort of lists off that they're not athletes because they're car drivers, and he's an athlete, and athletes like him throw touchdowns and slam dunks and drop legs. Notice he didn't say throw home runs because that's not really a sport, is it? Let's be honest. If your biggest drug problem is amphetamines because your athletes keep falling asleep during your game, you're not really a sport. And before
I was
anyone
hoping he
says,
would say real athletes have royal flushes and stuff like that.
before anyone says you're English, what about cricket? I'm going to say we know it's not a sport. We get them to wear woolly jumpers. You're wearing woolly jumper. It's not a sport. Um, but moving on. So Kate Crush is out first, and Krista is out second, and both of them show a million times more personality than the NASCAR guys that are accompanying Christopher to the ring. Ferrara points out this is essentially 3-on-1, which is what we said about the first match. Um, and he's got a point. I think we both can agree on that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Crush jumps Christopher while he's on the ropes and starts working him over. Christopher fights back with a neck breaker. Bulldog out the corner gets two. Crush posts Christopher on a second attempt. Suplex gets two. Christopher fights back to the corner, but Crush ducks his offense and hits him with a spin kick for two. Christopher fights out of a sleeper where they trade shots, and Christopher nailed an enziguri. Christopher hits a stunner, but lets Crush get up and had his corner punches reversed. Crush goes to the apron to argue with the NASCAR guys. They bring the middle rope up to hang him up. The ref is close to them, but somehow distracted. despite the fact you can blatantly see them interfering. The commentary just doesn't mention this. One hip hop drop later, and it's a win for Christopher. Um, so here in the UK, I'm sure there are shows over there that do it, but our holiday camp scene essentially runs a format which is you'll have two matches in the first half. Heel goes over in the first with shenanigans. In the second one, the heel goes over when the heel from the first one interferes, and then basically the faces get on the microphone and say, "Well, if you guys are going to act like that, we'll take you on in a tag match, so therefore you can't run in and have shenanigans." And then the main event of the show, the faces win the tag match. Essentially, what they're doing here, but spreading it over 2 weeks, and they're doing it in the wrong order. They would do it in the right order. The K Crush match would have been first because there was no interference, and then it would have been followed by the Hall and Jarrett match. Um, not that it's a bad thing that they happened in the order it happened in, but as we said earlier, it's the face, at least the heel on his own against a face with two backups that all interfere. It's
I mean,
way they tried to do.
they think it was exciting. I agree with you completely, but like they think it was exciting. I don't know, you know.
I mean, I think it helps that it's a Southern show with Southern stars. Because you said last week this show felt awfully Southern, and I think I get what you mean with that.
Yeah.
So next, it's more Cage Girls, and they announced Shamrock will be out later to talk about his NWA title reign. So next we have it's what we've all been waiting for. It's the lingerie battle royal. Tyler's out first, and JB misses out her as he starts listing off the announcements. After the first three girls come out, he just gives up announcing them because
Yeah, it was really hard to watch
yeah,
because I did not know who any of them were, and yeah, they gave up. For one, the announcements were off. He was announcing the wrong people because they kept going,
yeah.
"That's not who that is," and then he gave up. And then it's like, who's who? Who are these people? I don't know any of them. I knew Mickey James. That's about it, or Alexis Laurie.
I mean, yeah, I know some of them, but yeah, there are
Yeah,
some who are
Francine,
just
Electra. I mean, yeah, you know a few of them.
there are, but yeah, the girls who are just in there just to fill out the numbers. Yeah, so yeah, they're all dressed in pajamas. I'm going to say that's for budgetary reasons and move on, as I don't want the target ads associating with trying to find out the actual reason that they dressed like that. Um, and you know what? You can't convince me that it's a good idea for me to look. It's going to be white on play by play. Just picture a massive
Yeah.
teenage girls sleepover. You're about halfway there.
So
Tyler
the
is,
object of the match was to strip down the opponents. The
yeah,
person with the pajamas on, last one with their pajamas on, any part of their pajamas was the winner.
yeah. Tyler's out first, acting all modest despite wearing quite a nice swimsuit. Sasha is out next. Aaron is
Oh,
out.
also, sorry, uh, commentary was very problematic during this match. I'm surprised
Yeah,
Jerry Jarrett let it go. Like there was a scene where I guess you know it's 2002 or whatever. And it's a different time now, but there was a scene where uh Don West said something along the lines of, "Is this what happens at a girl's sleepover?" And then uh Braid Boy replied with, "Well, if that's the case, then I'm gonna get some secret hidden cameras or something like that." And it's like, wow, dude, that is so problematic that you said that.
yeah. I think I've started blanking out all that was said here.
He was saying awful. They were saying awful, horrendous things. And then there's a part where he sexually assaults Francine.
Yeah,
Francine falls out to the ground and he goes to help her up and he kind of sexually assaults her. And it's ha ha funny because she gets his belt and she whips him with it, but it was bad. It was really bad.
yeah. Erin's the third one out. She sprints to the back like she's left her car unlocked or something. Just to say, there is a lot of flailing in the ring, but nothing that is cool outside of that chick trying to take that chick's other clothes off. Oh. Most of the girls left have done at least ballet matches, so it's kind of starting to look like a match towards the end. Francine is out after being
Yeah, they got rid of the
tricky.
girls who didn't know anything like up front.
Yeah. Joni is out next. I don't even know who that is. Francine is upset on the floor, and Ferraro goes to comfort her. He cops a feel, which leads to Francine unbuckling his belt before she starts whipping him with it.
So
Just pointing
she plays like she's going to pleasure him,
yeah,
and he's like, "Yeah, I'm all for it." Like she's gonna whip it out in the middle of a wrestling show in front of everybody. But then she takes his belt off, and then yeah, she just beats him with it.
yeah. I didn't put that in my play-by-play notes because I was eating at the time I was watching this, and I didn't want to put myself off my food thinking about that. So
Well, that's
um,
a good choice. That was a good choice you made.
yeah, uh, it's been that took 2 or 3 minutes. That bit we've just gone over, during which they show none of what's happening in the ring. Alexis Lurie gets eliminated. No one mentions it at all. It wasn't
Yeah, I
until
mean,
they did
she
a
was
head.
a nobody at the time. Nobody cared about her.
Well, no, every other one got announced that who was eliminated. Shannon or Daphne, as we know about, was eliminated just before they sort of cut back to it. But and she got announced. No, Alexis Lurie just is not there when they finally cut back to the ring, which shows how much attention everyone was paying to this match. So yeah, I actually had to edit back in. I had to go back through my notes to put in that Alexis had gone because I didn't notice at first. I just suddenly realized, hang on a minute, there's two girls in the ring. Oh, there was four a minute ago. So yeah, it's down to Taylor and Electra. Electra wins. I'd go into detail into the action, but it was so crummy. I'm worried my head would explode.
When Electra didn't win, Taylor won.
Yeah, Taylor, that's what I said.
Oh, okay, okay.
But yeah,
Didn't Francine go back in, and then Francine put her top back on, and then
yeah,
she went back in, and then she took Taylor Vaughn's stuff off, but she wasn't really the winner.
yeah, and then started whipping Taylor with Ed's belt or
Oh
uh,
yeah, Francine lost her mind.
yeah. So yeah, Taylor Vaughan is now Miss TNA and has a
What does that
TNA
even
contract.
mean?
That
What
is,
is Miss
I don't know, it's
TNA?
not a women's title. It's essentially a beauty queen title from what I can make out, but they
Yeah.
but going in pajamas is hardly the most beauty queen thing.
So Taylor Vaughn was previously in the WWF
Yeah.
as BB, aka Barbara Bush,
Yes.
and I think she only had like one appearance, but I feel like she was around for a lot longer, but I don't remember her. I just remember her being like a paramedic or something.
Yeah, she was around, I think she was around a few months. Started off, yeah, as a paramedic, and I think she was in like the Armageddon match where Miss Kitty won the title. So,
Yeah, yeah,
high
yeah.
caliber talent. And she was in the Rumble swimsuit contest, and eventually she was written off when Bubba Ray was just putting women through tables, and that was where she was written off. And
Was
then she
it
went,
weird that she was named Barbara Bush?
yeah. I mean, saying that, Vince is a staunch Republican, so it,
Yeah.
she went to WCW. She was sort of there for a while in 2000. I
What was
can't,
her name in WCW?
uh,
Asia?
No, it was Papaya, I think. She accompanied Alan Funk doing at the start of his Kiwi gimmick before he left her and
Oh,
took Paisley on instead.
okay. I don't remember that. I don't remember her.
No, I remember he changed valets. I don't remember a lot about the gimmick. It's but yeah, it was only like
This is this a high point for her winning Miss TNA?
it might be actually.
Wow.
So yeah, coming with that, apparently she also got a TNA contract, at least in kayfabe, and
Yeah, I
she,
was gonna say nobody actually had those.
yeah, this just seemed like a what? This just seemed like them trying to live up to the TNA name, but the pajama thing just, I don't know,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
was
just
like,
pigeonhole some TNA in there.
yeah, the pajama thing was like, oh yeah, we're TNA, and it's a case of now here they are dressed as blandly as possible, and it's like you seem to. Are you leaning into the name or leaning against the name? Sure, you guys just pick a lane.
Yeah, and
Um,
it's like if you wanted them to be in pajamas, then why didn't you call it like a slumber party battle royal?
yeah,
Or something. I don't know. It was weird.
Yeah. Uh, so next we have another cage match segment, and then we have an interview with Goldilocks, who's with Apollo. Before he gets to say anything of note, Bobcat storms in demanding that her man, David Young, should get interview time. I'm just going to say there's now a lot of reviewers rag on Goldilocks as an awful and annoying person, but Bobcat here is just so much worse,
Yeah.
which is probably the most positive thing I can say about the upcoming segment. Joy.
Oh
So
gosh.
then we have a cage match dance. Sorry, then we have a cage dance even. Uh, Apollo takes on David Young. So Apollo comes out. He really looks like a potential star here. Whereas
I'm
David,
really surprised that David Young is like getting a push in a storyline here because I remember David Young just being a job guy.
yeah, I've my first note is he just looks like kind of like the odd kid from school who was probably all right, but no one really was that close with him. Just sort of sat in the corner. So Apollo no sells some tackles and he shows some great leaping ability with ducking and diving before Young catch it before Young sort of picks him up, but Apollo catches him with a slam. The camera then focused on Bobcat at ringside, and Young tries something that Apollo turns into an overhead throw. The camera is still focused on Apollo as he's still focused on Bobcat as Apollo goes for a dive. Who's supposed to be the star in this match? Do they want to focus on
Bobcat.
the action, or do they want to focus on the chick at ringside? Because
I mean, it's
you're missing.
TNA though. It's not Athletic Wrestling Association. It's total boobs and butt wrestling.
Yeah. Uh, Back in, Apollo works over Young in the corner. Young cuts him off with "I don't know what" as the camera focus on Bobcat again. She's
But
making
what's
a
Bobcat doing? You're not saying she's like flirting with Jeremy Borash and like sitting on his lap and like undoing
yeah,
his tie. And he's like, I don't want anything to do with this. I don't want anything to do with this. And she just keeps going for him. It's weird. It's wild. It's like, why is she
yeah,
doing that? And then at the same time, it's distracting David Young.
yeah. So yeah, she's making the moves on Borash here. Young's working over Apollo. There's an armbar. Don't know how they got there. As Yeah, they've spent the whole time focused on Bobcat.
It
Um,
was so weird. Yeah. It was a distraction for him.
Yeah. So yeah, this is caught Young's attention, and Apollo gets two with a surprise roll up before falling to a clothesline. I'm just going to say this now. For a guy who looks like a smaller version of Batista, he is getting knocked around a lot by a guy who looks like a 40-year-old IT consultant. Uh, Speaking of which, Young gets to climb up in Seguri on Apollo for two. So yeah, JB is getting something that's also corrected to something. I'm not sure what that was supposed to say.
A
So,
lap dance, maybe at this point. Sheesh.
so yeah, so
And
it's
then and then the announcers, Don West is like, "Oh, he's so lucky. He's so lucky. I want to be a ring announcer now. I want to change my job to a ring announcer." And it's like, come on, shut up, Don West.
yeah, that should be lap dance. For some reason, it's auto corrected to laudable. So yeah, he's getting a lap dance while Young gets two count off a suplex. Rest hold, and no one is feeling Apollo's comeback here. Maybe it's just because he's not established yet, or maybe it's because there's too much focus on what's going on ringside.
It's just an
Uh,
overbooked mess. It really is. And then at this point, this is like the first match they've ever recorded. So they
yeah.
people don't even know what TNA is. They're coming into the building. It's the first show. It's a dark match, and it's
Yeah.
way overbooked.
Mm. So yeah, there's a nice looking springboard DDT that gets a collective shrug from the audience. I'm gonna say this now actually. The crowd looks different from the previous match because this was, like you said, this is one of the first matches they recorded before the previous week's show. And at the end of the previous week's show, a lot of people started shuffling out, so they had to reorder the audience. So this match and the Cheeks match, the audience layout looked completely different from everything else.
Oh, that's interesting that people thought the show was over and they left, so they had to like put more people in front of the hard cam or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, I mean, the taping itself didn't finish till I think it was about 11:30 at night. So if this is a midweek show, if you've got work in the morning, you're gonna be sort of hard pushed to stick around for nearly 4 hours.
Yeah. One time I went to a WWF house show and like it was like 96 or something. And the main event was like Shawn Michaels and Mankind or something weird like this.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why I went. I was excited about that match. And we're sitting there and they have the semi-main, which is the match before the final match. And after the match was over, Howard Finkel got up on the microphone and he was like, "Hey, thank you guys for coming. It's been such a great night. You've been such a wonderful audience." And he's like kind of going on and on. And at this point, a bunch of people I'm observing are just getting up and leaving. And I'm like, isn't there a main event? What's happening? And then they're leaving and thinks like, thank you so much. We can't wait to come back to San Jose and blah, 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 all this stuff. And then there's a couple seconds of silence and people are shuffling out. And he goes, and now our main event. And I was like, holy crap, everybody just left.
Yeah. There's a story like that in Foley's first book, actually. You remember the Monday Night Raw where I think it's the Raw after WrestleMania 14, where they have the tag match with the Outlaws in the cage.
Okay.
So yeah, that match finished up, and the new DX is established, and then people that sort of were like, "Oh, that must be the end of the show then," and then like the ring announcer is like, "Oh, don't forget, coming up we have Stone Cold Steve Austin." This actually leads to like a Foley turn down the line because he's like, "Well, me and Funk, we gave you this great tag match, and then you turned around and left, and then turned around and started chanting someone else's name. Well, screw you."
Oh, yeah. Telling the audience, don't leave because Stone Cold's still coming.
Yeah.
He's like, dang, that's messed up.
Um. So let's see. So yeah, Young reverses something to a spine buster, which is at this point is the most effective looking move he's hit in the whole match. And the focus instantly turns to his valet at ringside. He then misses a moonsault and eats a super kick. And Apollo hits quite a nice looking TKO for the victory. Bobcat then dances around and celebrates like David Young won.
Yeah, and he's like, what are you doing?
I don't know what they're trying to achieve with this because are they trying to push Apollo? Because if they are,
Yes.
they did a
They're trying to push
real
Apollo, yes.
well. Then they did a
They're
really
trying,
good
so this is
job.
what I think. This is what I think they're doing. They're trying to push Apollo. They're making David Young a job guy, but they're trying to disguise it that he's not a job guy by putting Bobcat with him and having her be crazy and wild and getting all the attention. So you're not thinking like, oh, he's a job guy. You're thinking, oh man, that Bobcat, she's wild.
Hmm. The trouble is he doesn't look particularly great, especially standing next to Apollo. Yet,
No.
what you go through my notes, he's the one getting more offense on Apollo, and it's okay. And Apollo shows some great athleticism, especially early on. Here, it's not sending out the right message.
Yeah, it's not. It's not. They're definitely not thinking it out right. They're really not because you're right. They're trying to make Apollo come back, make him like put him on the defense and have him make his comeback so he can win the match. But at the same time, like David Young is the job guy. Just go out there, have a quick squash match, have Apollo do his big moments, his big moves, and then go home with it. And don't even give David Young a valet.
Yeah. Or if they want to push the whole sort of cuckold storyline, and I don't know why, because it's just going to do no one any favors.
No, it did
Don't
not. It was not good television.
Yeah, just don't do it in a match with someone who you're
No.
trying to push. It's simple as that.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
because it takes the
Do it
attention.
in the previous. Do it in the freaking Cheeks match, in the Freaks, in the Cheeks versus Frank Parker match. Do it in that match. That match isn't anything. They're not trying to accomplish anything. That's just a time waster.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, if they switch the opponents in those matches, Frank, I think Frank Parker would have made a better opponent for Apollo here.
You're right. Absolutely would have.
Yeah. So next we have another cage dance while Tanay plugs the NWA TNA website. Uh, that doesn't apply anymore. That's the URL has changed so many times with the name changes. NWATNA.com doesn't actually go anywhere, which is they had some interesting articles on there. I remember during the day, back in the day. Did you ever visit the website, the original one?
No, I don't think I did. I don't think I ever did.
Yeah. I can't remember. It might have been Don West or some. It was there was someone who did like regular articles on there that probably if I was to reread them now, they'd probably be quite cringe. But it's like stuff then that in 2002 was like it's like some of the stuff. It's like a lot of the stuff on this show that's like okay, some of this was more acceptable back then. It's like yeah,
It's like
like
their
I
own dirt
remember
sheets, their own TNA dirt sheets.
yeah.
Guess what? Chris Harris is wearing today a blue shirt.
Oh, they did. They also had an online auction on there, which we'll get into because we'll get into in about. I think that's about 3 or 4 months down the line. But that is actually relevant because that um, is the last known sighting of very obscure piece of wrestling memorabilia. That auction, but we will get to that further down the line. Not probably about 3 or 4 months from now, actually. So in the ring is Joel Gertner as he introduces the Rainbow Express. He explains that he knows they're not alike, they're gay and he's not, but in the ring they're all business and that's good for his business or something to that effect.
That was a terrible promo too. I like Joel
Yeah,
Gertner. I interviewed Joel Gertner, but this, I mean, to come out and be like, "Oh, they're gay," like, what was the point of that? And it felt very homophobic to me.
I don't know, I didn't feel too bad, but yeah, towards the end, it's sort of, you expect a Gertner promo to be a certain
Yeah,
way.
a lot of
And
things in this match felt very homophobic to me. I'll get into that as we go on, I guess.
yeah. So yeah, I mean, on that subject, the Dupps refused to make their entrance as they don't want to wrestle two gay guys.
We ain't fighting those hippies, he says.
Yeah.
So stupid.
So instead, Bill Behrens gets James Storm, Chris Harrison go in their place. As they've only just arrived, they'll be doing it in street clothes. Again, I pointed out at the start that Jarrett called out Hall right at the start of the show, and it was lucky that Hall was dressed and ready to go. Here we see two guys who hadn't even turned up by that point. Apparently, that's not.
Yeah, and it felt weird that they were instructed to take their shirts off. Just
Mm,
go out there, just go out there, take your shirts off and go out there.
yeah, although with them both in jeans and cowboy boots, they definitely looked more like a team.
Yeah, they did. More so than James Storm and Psychosis.
Yeah, there is. I don't think you're ever going to get over that one, are you?
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe after a while. It's still pretty fresh. The wound is still pretty fresh.
Yeah. So the Rainbows jump the guys as they slide into the ring, and a fight is on. Harrison and Storm come out on top, and Bruce is sent to the outside. Lane stops a super kick from Storm and eats a spin kick instead. Lane fights back and hits a tornado DDT instead of making the cover. He kisses Bruce's hand to tag him in.
Okay, right here. This is he kissed his hand to tag him in, and Don West said something along the lines of, "They don't have to throw it in our faces."
Yeah, I don't. I mean, the kiss on the hand thing works for me.
It does works for me too. It's fine. It's part of their
Yeah,
gimmick, whatever. But yeah, Don West said they don't have to throw it in our faces. I don't remember exactly how he worded it, but it was like that kind of argument. And I was like, "Oh, Don, just ignore it. Just let it go."
yeah,
But like, in the 90s and the 2000s, like being gay was like a punchline. Ha ha, that person's gay, whatever. Like that's the way that like the pop culture was. And so I see what they're trying to do, but like it just felt so cringe and so like bad. I don't know.
yeah. I mean, well, around this time, you've got Billy and Chuck on the other side. They're doing a similar
They
thing.
never said they were gay though. I mean, they got
We
married, but you know.
will get to that when it happens. But yeah, they are doing stuff that, granted, by today's standards, is cringe. It was still a lot more
Billy
progressive.
and Chuck was pretty cringe too, actually.
Yeah, yeah, but it was still better
Do you
than
remember how Billy and Chuck ended at
yeah.
the wedding when Billy's like, "Wait a minute, I'm not gay," and Chuck's like, "Neither am I." That was dumb.
That whole segment. I'll go into it more when we
We'll
get
get
there.
into it, yeah, when we get there.
But just
But yeah, this was this
that
was this
segment.
was bad. I didn't enjoy it. It was
Yeah.
cool to see AMW make their debut, and then also I want to get into Lenny and Bruce a little bit. Lenny Bruce is an old comedian, and I think they're named after him, kind of. I don't know where the name Bruce came from. But then I had to figure out who Bruce was. And so I Googled Bruce TNA wrestling, and it
Yeah.
was Kwee, which I should have known because it looks just like him. And so Lodi is injured. And so Kwee is taking his place in the Rainbow Express. And I just thought that was interesting.
Oh, I didn't realize it was Wee Wee actually, but because
Yeah, Bruce was Kwee.
he
They said
because
because
he
I
comes
thought it was
back.
Lenny and Lodi, but then commentary said Bruce is taking the place of Lodi, who has an injury.
Yeah,
And so I go, wait, then who's Bruce? So yeah, it was Alan Funk, aka Kwee.
yeah, no, because he we'll get into it in the next few weeks, but do some he does go more into the singles ranks. Well, I say that loosely, but I will get there.
As Bruce or as
I
Alan Funk?
think it was Alan Funk, if I remember right.
I don't think he's related to Terry Funk.
No, or Flash Funk.
No, no, I don't think so.
So yeah, Bruce Bailey gets a one-off clothesline assisted sunset flip. Harris comes in to even the numbers, but this keeps the ref distracted while Storm gets double teamed. Lane slathers himself over Storm for a two. He kisses Bruce. He works over Storm, and Lenny is back in. Lenny has a tiger tamer on, and Harris clotheslines him out of it. Tag from Storm and Harris is all over everyone. Lenny hangs him up on the top rope, but Harris rolls through on a slam attempt for two. Backslide gets another two. Lenny rolls up Harris for two, but Harris pushes him into Bruce and catches him with a schoolboy for the win. I guess it makes sense they don't have like sort of a big double team here, but schoolboy for the win in your
Yeah,
debut.
because they weren't really expecting the team up when they walked into the building.
Yeah. That seems to be a trend with Storm and tag teams in TNA because it seems to be a case of, oh, here you go, here's a new partner. Because it's
Yeah,
with
yeah.
AMW, it's the same with Beer Money. I think there was another less successful team they tried to make work.
And then shooting off of beer money, you have the Dirty Heels, which is Bobby Roode and Austin Aries, which is
Yeah.
also just two guys that were just shoehorned together.
Mm. But I mean, but it worked, but it did seem like quite odd that,
I felt
with
this was a great way to put these guys together, and it's like, hey, we need somebody. These two guys are walking in the door right now. You guys, we need a tag team. Go out there, do your thing, and they discover, hey, wait a minute, we kind of like this. We kind of like teaming together. And then on top of that, either one of them singles were kind of gonna flounder, but then as a tag team, they shined a little bit. So I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I think it does work out quite well. Well, like I said, my only issue is the fact that it's just they seem to repeat the process with Storm every time. It's like
Yeah, yeah. But does Bill Burns tell him to take his shirt off every time? Like, hey, this is Bobby Roode. You guys are beer money. Just take your shirts off.
I, I didn't really think about it at the time because I was just like, well, yeah, you most wrestlers wrestle without shirts except for
But they should be their
glory, but
choice. It should be their choice. That's
yeah.
all.
Um, Actually, maybe we should cover Ring of Glory at some point. That's because that's
Ring
TNA.
of Glory? I don't know this.
You don't. It's a promotion Vince Russo set up, and all the events are held in churches, and because of religious conservatism, all the wrestlers have to wear t-shirts. But it's basically all TNA wrestlers. It's
Oh
not.
wow. What's the
Uh,
years on this thing?
so this would be sort of like 2004, 2005, that sort of era.
I'm down to do a little deep dive on it and do a little special episode on it when the time comes.
Yeah, but you sort of bringing up the shirt thing. That's it. Just
Lucky Bill Burns wasn't there, right? He'll be in the locker room telling everybody to take their shirts off.
But yeah, that'll be a Patreon somewhere down the line. We've got it's it'll certainly make for more interesting watching than I don't know if we ever watch that Orlando Jordan Ultimate Warrior match, which I'm only prepared to do if you are. I'm not forcing that one on
We'll
anyone.
cross that bridge when we come to it.
Yeah. Oh, so where was I? So we have more
James
cage
Storm and Chris
dancing.
Harris get the win.
Yeah. So we have more cage dancing.
Oh, and at this point, they also announced the tag team titles will be decided next week.
Yes. Yeah, so yeah, they do push that a lot throughout the show. We'll go into the tournament next week, but there is I believe it's a 14 tournament, which yeah, no, I won't go into too much here because it's
No, we know who wins. I mean, I do. So yeah, we won't go too much into it. They didn't really tell us who was in it,
yeah.
but they're just pushing it for next week.
I mean, I think that's in Jarrett's book. He's concerned about their tag title situation going into the third show because he's like, oh, we are a bit light on tag teams, and the fact they aren't promoting them, I think, does sort of show. Maybe that's just because I know that now. I didn't really think about it at the time, but
I mean, that's probably why they didn't give us any names because they didn't
yeah,
know yet who was going to be in it.
yeah.
I can see a little bit of panic.
Yeah. So Tanay introduces Ricky Steamboat, and Steamboat is there to bring out Ken Shamrock. Shamrock cuts a promo about what he's going to do as champion, and he's interrupted by James Mitchell.
Hold on a second. Ricky Steamboat did not do very good in this segment. I was not thrilled with this promo. I did not. I also did not like the fact that he was like, "You're NWA World Champion," or he didn't say world. He said heavyweight champion. Just like Dory Funk Jr., Terry Funk, Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat. Really, you're gonna say yourself? You're really gonna say yourself, Ricky? But I don't know. I didn't like it. Shamrock had sandals on, which I thought was also kind of like weird. I don't know. Maybe I'm looking a little bit too much into it. But
Yeah,
this it wasn't a good segment.
yeah, yeah, sort of the flip flop things that they did just look kind of odd. They drew my eye as well, and I'm like, yeah, you if you dressed in training gear, you'd wear like sneakers or something. But I was
And then
worried
you
that
got to
might just
figure
be
like, there's any point somebody's gonna sneak attack me, right? I'm the
yeah,
champion. Like I need to be ready to fight. I mean, I guess he fought at some point, but like I don't know. It just seeing him in sandals. I'm like, what are you wearing sandals for?
yeah. So yeah, James Mitchell states his organization, the Disciples of the New Church, are going to control all the championships in NWA TNA, and he throws out a challenge for next week. He teases it will be against Slash before Malice appears from the crowd to beat down Ken Shamrock. To be fair, Ricky Steamboat does try and help Shamrock as pretty
Yeah,
much
he does.
charge the ring.
It's so sad. And then Shamrock's response to Slash is, "Are you serious? This is a joke, right? Sit him
Yeah.
down right now. I'll just beat him up right now."
And as you pointed out last week, it's Wolfie D from PG-13, not
Just send
exactly,
him to the ring right now.
yeah, no, not exactly someone who's ever been a credible title contender.
Right.
So yes, Malice only stops the attack on Shamrock when Mitchell tells him to, which is Tanay pushes as like, he's got control over this great beast, which
Yeah, yeah. And then Don West's like, yeah, he stopped when he told him to stop. It's crazy. They're really pushing that narrative.
yeah, I mean, there's Mitchell is really sort of engaging here. Is there is something about him that draws you in. I do like a lot of the stuff. I do like what he does with the stuff TNA gives him over the years. Even if some of the stuff they give him is just god awful. Um,
Yeah, and I think right now, even so being so new in TNA, I think the longevity of James Mitchell has really like given him credibility in our eyes.
yeah,
Because I used to say James Mitchell in ECW and WCW, James Vandenberg. And
yeah,
like so I feel like he's been around for so long. So you're like, okay, well, this guy's been around forever. And now he has something to say, so I'm gonna listen to him.
yeah.
Not like a Mortimer Plumtree where I'm like, who the heck is this guy?
Yeah. I, I do. I wouldn't mind seeing more stuff from Plumtree, but I'm not offended that he doesn't crop up past the first year.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think Mitchell has the longevity factor.
Okay, here's something to ask. So they've now booked a NWA title match on the third show. So prior to that, your assumption was the main event was kind of well, the first thing they announced for the third show was the tag title tournament. So the thought would be, okay, the final would be the tag tournament. Then they announced the Hall and Christopher match against Jarrett and Crash. It's like, okay, well maybe that'll be the main event. Now this is the main event. So the
I don't see
NWA
Ken Shamrock and Slash main eventing though,
Mm.
or is it
Well,
Malice?
no, it is Malice.
Okay, okay.
Like you said, Slash was a joke. So the NWA tag title match is now third peg.
Yeah, you're right.
Is that sending out a bad message, do you think? Is that sending out the message that they don't have the confidence in this? In the
No, it's not. I think what they're doing is they're trying to overload the show. I feel like they're trying to overcompensate for the first two shows not having a lot of beats. And so the third show, they would have come out the gate really strong with a lot of beats and a lot of eggs in their basket, I guess. But it's like, I feel like booking these shows, you got to take a couple of these eggs and put them in the next basket because, yeah, you want a lot for week 3, but you don't want to surpass week 4 before you even get there.
Hmm. Yes, I suppose that is another way of looking at it. Yeah. Uh, so next up, we get some highlights from the six-man tag. As Ferrara brings up why aren't the Elvises involved in the upcoming match? I mean, you mentioned this
Yep, they
last week.
did. Yep, that was my argument too. And they go, well, this match was signed before the Elvis thing happened. And then they're like, well, they could have changed it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, no, it's a fair point. I gave you reasoning why it worked, in my opinion. But yeah, no, but looking at it from strictly just someone watching it as a viewer, your point is perfectly valid. It's right, you know.
I still think AJ Styles' team should have won the first night, the first show,
Yeah,
the first.
I I'm not going to say you're wrong on that. That you've got a strong argument there, and I've given my argument. We both disagree, but you know, you can see the point I made, right, about how it builds up a potential challenger for Styles when he won.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
do. But I feel like also Jerry Lynn and Low Key would have won as well. And so I don't know. I just feel like if they would have like I said last week, if Low Key would have pinned Sonny Siaki, then Low Key could have claimed that he is a top contender because he won that match.
again, yeah,
But yeah,
again,
I don't want to get back. But
a
yeah, I
fair
know what you're
point.
saying too. But did the Elvises actually come back as top contenders once the X Division title was established?
You know
Did they
what?
follow through with that?
I don't believe they lasted too long. I don't.
Yeah, we'll find out. We'll find out going forward. But I don't feel like there's you. I don't think you should put so much stock into an act that's only going to be around for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah.
So this is, as we stated, a double elimination four-way. So once
Have we gotten there already?
we are there already, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, once someone is beaten, they go to the outside, and the next person takes their place. And then once they're beaten again, they go to the back. So AJ is out first with a weak-sounding knockoff of "Born in the USA." That's what I thought at the
Yeah,
time.
what's up with his music? It's so bad.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
so bad.
well, you say that it's the most memorable music possibly on this show. I mean, I remember Scott Hall's being a knockoff of like the Razor
The
Ramon thing,
NWO, yeah.
and I remember My Way, but yeah, as you go further down the show, the themes are less memorable. This is
Because
one
Jeff
thing.
Jarrett didn't have his music yet, right? Or did he?
I think he did.
Because I like the Jeff Jarrett song. But yeah, I don't know. This is an awful music. But whatever. AJ's a young up and comer. He's got time to do we have time to change the music later on down the road, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I think yeah, they were just sort of pushing him just like an all-American boy. You know, he's sort of the white meat baby face they're getting behind.
Yeah. Born in USA. Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I said, it's the most memorable, especially out the four themes uh from this match. Although Loki's,
Yeah. I mean, we're not talking about anybody else's theme, so
yeah. Yeah, next out is Psychosis, and I still miss the horns. I know it's been over 25 years, but whoever thought to remove the horns is an idiot. Um, I
Well,
don't
you
care.
can't have horns without a mask.
I like it when have you seen he sometimes comes down wearing the mask and then takes it off. I quite like that.
Oh yeah, yeah, I've seen that. That's kind of neat.
Yeah. Loki's entrance is mostly caught on a wide shot, and it looks really off that they do that. I'm nothing against trying new things with wrestling production, but yeah, I'm not feeling this one. Jerry Lynn goes out last. He goes to get in the ring, but the ref tells him to take a seat. I'm just going to say here they every time someone gets defeated, they switch the referees as well.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't notice that. I don't think. Maybe I did.
I yeah,
But the final referee was Ricky Steamboat.
it was yeah.
Sorry if I'm
Yeah,
getting ahead of
I
this.
didn't notice it till about the third or fourth elimination. But yeah, because you've got Steamboat, Scott Armstrong, I think, and I cannot remember the name of the bald referee I found.
It was cool to see Scott Armstrong though, because he later on went to like referee superstardom with the WWE, a few years later.
Yeah. So AJ and Psychosis start off. Starts off strong with a tackle and some chops, but Psychosis face plants him off a wheelbarrow attempt. AJ flips out of a monkey flip attempt and hits a super kick for two. Psychosis reverses a corner charge and hits a spinning wheel kick to set up for a top rope leg drop for two. Wasn't that his finisher in WCW, the top rope leg drop?
I don't think he ever had a finisher in WCW.
Okay. AJ reverses a Hurricane Rana into a Styles clash for the first fall on Psychosis. Yeah,
Oh,
I
you mean
think
Psychosis? Yes, it was. I'm sorry. For some reason, I thought you meant AJ Styles.
yeah.
Psychosis' finisher was a guillotine leg drop. That is accurate. Yes.
I Speaking of WCW, they say on his entrance that Styles has only been doing this for 3 years, which means that his time in WCW, he was picked up after just over a year, which I think is quite, I don't know, I'd say it's quite impressive, but then you remember how many people WCW had on contract at that time, and it does kind of
Yeah,
water
but
down
also
how impressive that
I
sounds.
feel like a lot of it was AJ was in the right place at the right time
Yeah.
because he was good, right? I'm not going to take away anything away from him. He was good. He earned his spot, but WCW had special eyes on NWA Wild Side because that was their unofficial developmental territory,
Okay.
and that's where
Yeah.
he was.
Uh, so yeah. So immediately Loki is in hitting his patented three kick combo with the floor slap, but he pauses slightly, which allows Styles to hit up, which allows Styles to nip up and Rana him. I thought that was really cool then, and you know what? I still do now, 20 years later.
Yeah, that looked really cool.
Yeah. Styles attempts a German, but that's his reverse with a go kick to the back of the head. Loki goes for a cartwheel, something that is turned into a Styles clash attempt. However, Key gets out and kicks Styles square in the back. Styles charges Key, who launches him up and lands on the top rope. No, and lands on top of the ring post. Key joins him up on the top and rolls back in the ring with his crusher submission, but Styles is too close to the ropes. Key sets up his finish, but Styles reverses it into a slingshot that gets Key out of it and kicks him while he's on the apron. Key goes for something off the top, rolls through as Styles moves. AJ Styles lariat takes down Loki. A German suplex rolls through into a facebuster, and this gets the defeat for Loki. Um, I think this is the first time I ever saw Loki this match. So that would be my introduction to him. And yeah, he certainly
Yeah,
does
I
some
could
cool stuff.
probably, probably. I've it's good. It was really good. I'll save my criticism for the whole entire match at the end till the end.
Yeah. So yeah, Jerry Lynn is in immediately and levels Styles with a clothesline, one cradle pile driver later, and Styles is done. Um, they That's just a really cool way of building up Lynn. You've got Styles who just who's gone toe to toe with the last two guys, and Lynn just walks in and takes him out with two moves. I thought that was brilliant. It really made
Yeah.
Lynn look like the one to beat in this match. And given that he's in the entirety of the rest of it, um, yeah, well, we'll get to that because towards the end. Um, but yeah, so Psychosis is back in with a dropkick to the back of Jerry Lynn. Several reversals sees Lynn hit a flying snapmare on Psychosis, followed by flying head scissors. Second rope Bulldog gets Lynn to Lynn goes for something. At least it's Psychosis sending him to the outside to set up the first dive of the match. It's weird to think it took that long into the match for there to be a dive when, like, 3 minutes into every AEW match, there seems to be a dive. That
Yeah.
that's actually unfair on AEW. It's not just them who do that. I remember here in the UK for a few years we had a promotion called Southside, and they would run, and every year their cruiserweight title would be up in a tournament, and I was at one of those tournament shows, and the first 5 matches of this tournament, it went lock up, arm wringer, reversal. Something happens. One of the guys goes to the outside, the other one hits a dive 5 times in a row. And it's like, geez, you're not killing the crowd much by doing the exact same thing over and over again. So, well, I will rag on AEW when I feel right, but no, they are not the worst at this. I've seen a lot of people do that shit. So it's quite impressive that in this match, guys doing this style took this long before the first dive spot comes in. I think there's only one other dive spot in this match. But given it's the next division match itself is quite impressive. I mean, do you find that? Do you find that there's a lot of matches that just follow the same formula and you sort of drop out of it as a fan?
Um, yes and no. Like Ric Flair, for example, his matches always have all the same spots, right? And his matches feel very repetitive.
Yeah,
But like
especially the bigger matches of Flair's. Yeah,
yeah, but like
that's more than
a
fair.
Bret Hart, right? But the way that Bret Hart does it, he does the same spots too. Russian leg sweep, abdominal kick, all these different things. But I feel like his matches feel a lot more fluid. So it
Yeah,
just depends. Yes and no, right? Because it just
yeah,
depends on the match, the opponent, the mood. Sometimes repetitive things are okay, but sometimes they're absolutely just awful.
yeah. I mean, I guess it depends on what you're sort of looking for when you're watching a match.
Yeah.
I mean, the spot I've always thought kind of took me out on it is like the big dive spot where like a group of guys will just group together. And over the last sort of 10, 15 years, I've seen that sort of more and more. Um, in like big sort of multi-man matches. But I remember like the Young Dragons and 3 Count doing it in WCW, and but they were the only ones really that I really saw doing it at the time. So it didn't stick with me as much as it does now when I see like it happen a couple of times on a show at least. Um, so yeah, Psychosis is smart enough to bring Lynn back in and hits a top rope spin kick for 2. Lynn reverses a slam to a reverse DDT for 2. Top rope something is met by a dropkick from Lynn and a cradle pile driver later. Uh, Psychosis is out of the match. So Loki is in. Lynn is looking tired already, and Loki gets a quick 2 off a kick. Elbow drop gets another 2. Key works over Lynn in the corner. It looks like Lynn is setting up for a tornado DDT, but Loki cuts him off and hits a Hurricane Rana. Lynn rolls through and gets 2. Key gets back up and starts laying in the kicks. Lynn tells him to bring it, but he ducks the last one and hits an Insiguri, leaving both of them down. Jerry Lynn wins a trade-off of punches and fires up. Loki sends Lynn to the apron, but ends up getting leg dropped onto the second rope. Lynn's pile driver is reversed into a Loki armbar, but he gets power pumped for 2 anyway. Jerry Lynn then reverses the Key Crusher 99 into a DDT. One cradle pile driver later, it is over, and Lynn and Styles are the only ones left, with Styles needing to get 2 falls to Lynn's 1. AJ starts off by hitting Lynn with a lariat as he is getting back up. He goes for a power bomb, but Lynn reverses it into a Rana with AJ only survive. Lynn reverses it with a Rana that I think he must have been really tired here because he lands awfully, and the only reason AJ survived it is because his freakish athleticism that stopped him from crashing and burning on top of Lynn. Lynn gets a spin kick for two. Tilt the World backbreaker gets a two for Lynn. He then gets up on the apron. He goes for a sunset flip, but is meant to by a punch to the face. AJ follows up by hitting a nicely twisting splash from the outside back in for two. AJ hits a moonsault kick with Lynn in the corner, but Lynn comes straight out with a spinning DDT for two, and both are down. Jerry's up first and sets up for a suplex, but Styles reverses it into a hangman's neckbreaker for two. Quite a nice looking spot, actually. Lynn goes for a corner charge. Lynn turns a corner charge into a set out powerbomb for two. Jerry then goes for a pile driver, but Styles back drops out and hits a Styles clash to even up the score. I'm going to say this now. I've not seen the Styles clash done before, and I really love the way that AJ did it, where he sort of plants it and then sort of rolls straight through to the cover. He doesn't do that all the time, but he does it on each of the ones he hits in this match. He does it, and I don't know, for some reason it really kind of stuck with me. Just like
Yeah,
that.
I like when he does that too. I like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's just part of just that the fact that AJ is just so natural when it in the ring with certain aspects of it. That just sort of plays into that.
Yeah, it does feel very natural. And
Yeah.
I liked going into this with it came down to AJ and Lynn, and AJ had one loss and Lynn had zero losses. So it was like sudden death, almost not sudden death, but like do or die for AJ.
Yeah. So like I said, the refs all switch out, and Steamboat is switches in as the ref, which I like the idea that they switch the ref with each fall. However, Steamboat is basically there to award the title, so him not being in for the last fall, I feel kind of takes the wind out of it a bit. Maybe I'm reading too much into that one.
Oh wait, no, this is the last fall though, because they both have one loss.
Yeah, but surely in kayfabe terms, they didn't know AJ was gonna get that next fall, so it could have been the last one because Lynn only had to get the one fall.
Oh, I see. I see what you're saying.
Mm,
Yeah, I mean they could have presented it to where if it comes down to the, sudden death or whatever, then he'll be the referee. But yeah,
yeah,
you're right about that because they saved him for the end, but they could have just not used him at all if Lynn would have won.
yeah.
So for me here, this next up and coming match, this last match here, this last fall, I don't know why, but I felt like Ricky Steamboat was very distracting. The referee is supposed to be invisible, but like I just felt like Ricky Steamboat was so distracting to me for some reason.
I mean, I had issues with Steamboat in the Malice and Shamrock match. I don't know if you remember, but there were just points where he was, I don't know, he, like Malice, no, Shamrock was choking Malice, and instead of laying in a 5 count, Steamboat got to 7 before Shamrock broke the choke. And it was like, no,
Okay,
it
okay.
wasn't a choke. He was, yeah, Malice was in the ropes, but yeah, and
Yeah.
it's just like it's one of those things of it is there were just like silly things like that that just were like I think Steamboat was trying to go with he wanted to make sure there was a winner, but uh, that I found that distracting in the last. I didn't really pay much attention to him in this match. I'm going to be honest.
He was just over the top. I feel like he kind of stole the show by being the referee, which is weird in a sense, but I feel like, they needed to have a more anonymous person in this match as a third person.
True, but you can also see what they're kind of doing by having Steamboat in there because he is, a big name associated with
Yeah,
the
yeah, he
NWA
was.
way
And I'm
letters.
sure at the time it was a much bigger deal than it would be now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just very distracting for me. But anyways, go on.
They start off trading punches, and Jerry versus corner whip into a roll up, and the execution hints that one or both of these guys are starting to feel how long they've been in this match. They go through a series of various roll ups and reversals for a series of twos before clotheslining each other down. So a drop kick sends down Lynn to the apron where he stunners Styles across the top rope. They then fight out on the floor. Lynn catches an AJ Asai moonsault attempt, but AJ drops down behind him and hits a reverse DDT. Ferrara says in years that people will be talking about Styles on Lynn, and it says a lot about the caliber of people that Styles has faced since that's not actually held up, I think.
What do you
Back in
mean? You
Styles.
mean Lynn has it? They don't talk about Lynn, but they talk
Well,
about
I'm sort of
Styles.
thinking, I mean, you look at this match, there are some points that I've mentioned that Lynn's looking really tired, but they do some really awesome stuff as well. It's one of those things of, yeah, the fact that in the years since this has kind of fallen by the wayside is shows, the sort of caliber shows the level of matches that AJ Styles had after this, to the fact that this isn't necessarily the one that people sort of go to when
Okay.
talking about.
See, I didn't take it as maybe I'm wrong, but like, did he say people was talking about this match, or he say people talking about Styles and Lynn as individuals?
I took it as talking about just how they are together in this match.
Okay. I took it as these two guys are going to be the guys that people are going to be talking about for years.
Hmm.
But maybe I, now that I'm not hearing it right now, I'm taking it out of context too.
Yeah.
But I just feel like at this point Lynn was already very established.
Yeah.
He had those battles in ECW with RVD, and I think he was even ECW world champion. And then so he's like the veteran, and then AJ's the young upcoming young and up and comer. And so yeah, AJ has been talked about for years to follow.
Yeah. Back in, Styles gets two. He tries again for the moonsault into the DDT, but Lynn just hangs him up on the ropes before DDTing him onto the mat for two. Lynn sets up Styles for something, but Styles flips out and goes for a Rana that Lynn turns into a facebuster. Yeah, these two, some of the things they're doing is really looking incredible here. Lynn sets up for another powerbomb, but AJ turns it into a fireman's carry where he then drops Lynn across his knee. And Lynn makes it look like it absolutely killed him. I mean, I felt that. He hits like a brainbuster that he twists slightly not to hit his injured back on the floor immediately after this, and it's really cool, sort of subtle thing he did there. Jawbreaker breaks the Jerry Lynn sleeper hold. Lynn meets Styles as he climbs the ropes and superplexes him off the top, and that still doesn't clinch it. Lynn puts Styles up top, but is shoved off as Styles hits a spiral tap for three, and the confetti falls from the ceiling as Ricky awards Styles the title. Yeah, so what did we think of this match?
It was a really good match. I feel like it really established the X division, and more than that, it established AJ Styles. Because you had veterans like Psychosis and Jerry Lynn. You had the new guys like Loki and AJ. But this match really like put AJ Styles in that pedestal that he's kind of been on since.
Yeah, I mean, this was the first TNA match I think I ever saw. So, and it's literally sort of total non-stop action, and all four guys, although they're doing like the X Division style, they're all slightly different. I mean, I only really knew Psychosis. I knew, oh no, I would have known Lynn as well. But they were all sort of established the way they sort of go about things
Yeah, you're
in this
right. They
match.
all kind of are different.
Yeah,
It
but
was
yeah,
kind of silly to call this a tournament.
that was a weird thing to say because
Yeah.
sometimes they refer to it as a tournament, sometimes they just refer to it as a round robin, which is so
I
yeah,
mean, a round robin is a tournament though.
I suppose yeah,
And in a round robin, everybody faces everybody in a one-on-one match. Did
yeah.
that happen? I guess that might have happened. I don't know.
And
But
technically,
like,
no, because Psychosis and Loki didn't cross over.
yeah, see, so technically it wasn't really a round robin either. They
Yeah,
just called it a double elimination fatal four-way, really.
yeah,
But I guess that's nitpicking.
it is. Yeah, but yeah, like you said, this does really sort of establish styles. Actually, I remember kind of watching this, and I was like, 'cause I was just thinking of AJ Styles as just some guy they had working Saturday nights on WCW. So I was like, oh, they're just going to push this guy, are they? I mean, he might be fine. in a few years. But at the time I felt they were sort of really kind of sort of pushing him hard. But going back and watching it, it's like he did really put the work in. He really sort of earned the faith that they were putting in him, I think.
Yeah, yeah, he did. The first time I saw AJ Styles on WCW, I knew that he was special.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I I'm not sure if I did see him in WCW. I might have seen one of his Saturday night matches on a worldwide taping. Um,
Yeah, well, they brought him in with Air Paris when they were doing the cruiserweight tag team tournament, and that
yeah,
was very close to the end.
no, we didn't get a lot of that because worldwide was seemingly a few weeks behind, and it stopped literally the week that WCW got bought, so we didn't get a lot of like the Magnificent Seven stuff that was going on.
Oh, consider yourself lucky.
Really, I thought WCW was sort of starting to pick up towards the end. You know, it was gone from being awful to being almost acceptable.
Yeah, but the Magnificent Seven wasn't anything that I liked.
Yeah.
It was just the rehash of the Millionaires Club, as far as I was concerned.
I suppose I could see that. Yeah. Mm. You know, we had
But anyway, that's not what we're here for. We're here for some TNA. It was a
uh,
good show. I enjoyed it. There was a lot of problematic parts. There was some sexual assault. There was a lot of homophobia. So I guess without those, it was a pretty solid show.
I mean, I was going to say I thought this show, the most part, sucked. It basically started off strong, fell in a hole, and
Yeah.
then climbed a ladder to the heavens for the last match. It's just like it.
I feel like the formation of America's Most Wanted, although there was a lot of negative homophobic stuff in there, I feel like that was a big tent pole in the show.
I mean, as sort of historically, because you sort of look at those guys, especially even in this match, and you sort of look at them and think, okay, yeah, they could be a good team together. But yeah, it's just the stuff surrounding the match that really sort of
Yeah, yeah,
took me out of it. I mean,
I agree
if
with
so, I mean, if you were to rank it, would you rank it,
This is bowling shoe ugly.
or would you go?
The biggest event the sport has ever seen.
that. Probably Bowling Shoe Ugly at this point, but they did have some high points. They had, like I said, the first match, the Holland Jarrett, and then the tag team thing, and then the main event for the X Division title.
So, but you're still leaning towards bowling shoe ugly, are you?
Yeah, because for the most part, it doesn't hold up because of all the ugly spots. I guess all the
Yeah.
hatred. I don't know.
I see. I like, yeah, the good points are good enough for me not to go bowling shoe ugly. So I'm gonna still say, greatest moment in this greatest moment, just because, yeah, the good points are good enough that I'm prepared to forget about all the bad stuff.
Yeah,
So I'm sort of gonna, yeah, fall the other side. So yeah, this is one we're split on, which is that's
that's all right. I'm sure we'll be split on a lot of them. I mean, I like it for the most part, but like it just doesn't hold up because of all the negative stuff.
yeah.
Like, I mean, I'm sure by just assuming that Francine knew that he was gonna grab her boob during that match, but just watching it on TV, it just felt so like, especially what's been happening in the business lately. And we kind of been seeing a little bit of things behind the scenes and the whole Me Too, speak up wrestling thing that happened in 2020. Like, it's a toxic place for women. For the
Yeah.
most part, and to see this guy on TV grabbing this lady's boob and trying to get her to give him oral sex on pay-per-view, it just seemed very like so crude. I don't know.
Yeah, there was absolutely no need for that.
No, 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 not at all.
I don't
We
think
could
it
have had the lingerie battle royal, whatever they called it, and we could have been respectful to the women a little bit better, and it still would have been sexual and TNA.
Yeah, So there you have it. We've got split opinions on the show for this week, and well, that is pretty much the show for this week. If you are sticking with us on Patreon, we will be with you in a moment where we will sort of go further into this show and how it sort of holds up in time. Other than that, yeah, you can keep up with us on all the socials. That's ETA TNA Pod, except for Facebook, where we are ETA TNA Pod 1, because, you know, we're pretty damn good at this. Not to brag. So Sam, you got anything you want to plug?
No, just the stuff I said earlier on about the Ground Stack Coffee on Monday nights in Stockton.
Okay, well, you can find all my stuff at my Linktree. Pretty much all my socials are el.j.comedy. So yeah, if you are sticking around on Patreon, we'll be back with you in a minute. If not, we will see you next time. I've been LJ, he's been Sam. It's been emotional. Escaping the Asylum, a look at the history of NWA TNA, has been a Smart Alex production. It's been presented by Elliot James and Funky Sam and has been edited and produced by Alex.